That's awesome.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Hello.
Morning, Eugene. How are you?
Good morning. I'm
Hello,
good. I'm
everybody.
good. Hello.
No worries. We'll just start in the next 2 minutes. I'm just waiting for one more person, really, and then we'll get going. So you can just mute your mic, and then we will start probably in the next minute. Thank you.
Sure thing.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is well. It is 10:05 on the 3rd of March 2026, and I will just commence our Urban Practice Forum. I hope you are all warm, safe, and healthy. And yes, welcome to the Urban Practice Forum with the Gauteng Precinct Management Association. I am Katlego Kobe, the General Manager. And these sessions were really ideated for us to delve into all things best practice, share experiences, knowledges, and really have a dialogue around various topics. We invite an expert in the industry, and then obviously they would present around their past projects, and then and we would engage with the subject matter, and from there, collaborations, partnerships commence, but overall, best practices shared, and the industry continues to obviously grow. So, obviously, to start, we'll just flight the minutes from the previous session for record keeping purposes. And then we'll just look at all the emails that are in the minutes. And if you have a comment on the minutes, you would just have a chance to make that comment in terms of any errors or anything to note from the last session. I see there's apologies here from Andrew Barker, who won't be able to join us in this session. And yeah, as always, please do look at your names, organization, and email address just to make sure we have everything in order in terms of representing you correctly. And then, as I said, please do note the minutes in terms of wanting to make any comments. And as always, you can always find past presentations on the YouTube link. And then I will just paste links to our various social media platforms, online platforms, websites, where you can go through our resource center, join our communication channels, WhatsApp groups, and stay informed with all things urban management, precinct management, and development. No sleep or bandwidth. I'll just switch off my camera just so that we have a nice connection. Okay, I see Mary has joined us. Good to see you in the meeting, Mary. We will note the name change and correct it for you. Thank you for those minutes. Also, the links are to the presenters. So if you want to connect to either of them for any project ideas that you have, just let us know. I will share the relevant contact details. Specifically with the University of Pretoria, who are looking at essentially profiling one of the precincts in Gauteng for their urban strategy studio. So they'll bring in some master students to do some studies and research in your precinct. So if you want to be put in their schedule, just reach out and then we'll patch you in with Khaled. And then for the agenda today, the last session that we had was on the 3rd of Feb. And the next one obviously will be on the 31st of, it will be on the 7th of April, actually, excuse me. The next chapter meeting will be on the 31st. But for this session, we'll be having, one of our new partners coming and give a very I would say comprehensive but detailed presentation on the great work that SALGA is going to be undertaking this year. And then in addition, for the agenda that's not noted here is Eugene Ulman, who will be coming in. I think if you remember last year, he presented around conceptualizing a love letter for Johannesburg in the form of a documentary. So he'll just be coming in to update us on the way forward with that documentary. And then the third agenda item is pending. Looking at attendance. The gentleman is not in the session yet, so I will refrain from mentioning his input into the agenda and focus on um, the presenter that is in the session. So yeah, if everyone is fine with that agenda, we will commence. As I said, please do note any apologies in the chat, just so that we are able to keep that for record going forward. So without further ado, today we have Mr. Tobela Michael Zenzele Twala, a holder of an MBA, professional planner, part of SAPI and CAP. He's the senior advisor under built environment at SALGA, Gauteng mainly. He's the unit head and senior manager. He oversees major portfolios in terms of a Gauteng perspective, namely human settlements, public roads and transport, and development planning, and is really at the forefront of municipal planning support, program coordination, strategic stakeholder engagement, and the enhancement of provincial intergovernmental forums. And he's really just been keen to partner with us as the Gauteng Precinct Management Association, even going forward to invite us to some workshops around us, just sharing around the model, and really just being heard as a valuable stakeholder in contributing to policy reform and seeing how we can improve local governance. So I will just open up the floor to Mr. Tobela Twala to really just take us through the exciting work that you and the SALGA Gauteng team have been engaging in, and for example, what type of work you're looking to engage in going forward. Mr. Twala, thank you for joining us, and the floor is yours.
All right. Wow. Thank you so much, Chairperson, for that presentation. That introduction. I'm not used to such, but yeah, thank you so much. Yes, colleagues, my name is Tobela Twala. Just to confirm, can you see the presentation? Maybe I shouldn't. I'm just getting ahead of myself here. I should stop sharing so that maybe then you can see my face, so that you can be able to put the face to the name. Yes, colleagues, I'm very much excited to be part of this forum. Thank you so much for making the time for us. And as Mr. Dikobe has alluded that we are entering into a partnership, there's going to be quite great things that are going to be happening. As you know that the South African Local Government Association is part of the local government space. We are part of the communities, and we want to engage with such organizations as yourselves and also your networks to make sure that we actually assist one another for service delivery. So colleagues, I will then turn off my camera. So please excuse me for that, for at least for bandwidth, and then I'll be sharing my slide. Thank you so much, Chair. All right. Please confirm that you can see the presentation.
You can see it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Yes, colleagues. Sorry, this is my presentation from SALGA. All right. Right. So, colleagues, yes, the purpose of the presentation, number one, is to provide an overview of SALGA as an organization. Some of you might not have heard of SALGA, or you might have heard of the name SALGA, but might not really understand what is our mandate, and also maybe some structure, organizational structure that is relevant to GPMA. And then also, secondly, I will outline the mandate and core functions of the built environment planning portfolio, which is a subcluster, or maybe primarily where I'm actually based as the head of the portfolio there. And we've got 3 functional areas. Then thirdly, we will present the key programs and projects currently being implemented across Gauteng municipalities. So then what is SALGA, the South African Local Government Association, right? So SALGA then has got a mandate, right? It's an organization. It's an association, so we're not really a government department. So we're more like a GPMA, but we're actually much connected to the local municipalities all over the country. There is history. Sorry, okay, I don't know. I didn't put a timer to this. I don't know why it's continuing. Sorry for that. So basically, we are working with the municipalities, and I will then share on the 6 legs or functions that we do as SALGA. So we support municipalities. We are the person that we are the big brother, if I can say that, of the municipalities. We were under the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, the National Department. So we got delisted. So we are actually now quite independent. So we are not as government as we used to be. I hope you note that. So hence why then we've got people like myself who are more professional and less on the political. So it's basically now an organization which is more on professionalization and optimizing capacity of municipalities and really, taking municipalities to task while also capacitating. So that big brother effect, I hope that sort of like makes sense, right? So our mandate essentially then is to transform local government and to enable it to fulfill its developmental mandate. As we will know that local municipalities in South Africa are in a very dire state, right? So quickly, colleagues, our mandate lies in these 6 legs, where ours is to lobby, advocate, and represent for municipalities. So, for example, as we are now meeting with GPMA, we are lobbying GPMA to be in collaboration with SALGA. So I'm actually responsible for connecting municipalities to GPMA. I do know that maybe there were some direct communications with, for example, City of Joburg, which might have fractured or maybe might have died down, but that's essentially because most municipalities are not really performing well, so and there's a lot of political interference and all those things. So with SALGA now, we actually urge the councillors and the councils, and they do actually listen to us. So we're also an employer body. So we deal with employment related issues. And also part of this employer body is that we are professionalizing municipalities and then also capacity building. So we are also mandated with building capacity of the municipalities by doing trainings and workshops and various events and activities that they need. We also support and advise municipalities. We do strategic profiling. So we do actually showcase instances of great performance of the municipalities to sort of like sell the municipalities to other key stakeholders and other government bodies. And then also we do knowledge and information sharing. So this is part of the mandate of being evidence-based and also data-driven, so the data now and the information must actually drive development. So I hope you actually do appreciate that. So hence why we actually have more professionals and even have data specialists within the department. So, well, sorry, not within the department, but within the organization itself. Sorry about that. So we do have currently then, we're in a 5-year strategy, which is also aligned to the elections of the local municipalities. So as you will know that by the end of this year or during this, the next financial year, 2026, 2027, we're having the elections as you can see. So then we obviously then gonna align our strategy, our 5-year strategy to the next 5 years, IDPs of municipalities and so forth, right? So we do have various political structures. So apart from having professionals within SALGA, the organization, we also do have political structures. So obviously then after the elections are done, are concluded, we then have to put together our National Executive Committee of SALGA, the NEC, and then within each and every province, we do have provincial executive committees. So we've got chairpersons there and also the members. And so all of these are political structures. Am I hearing chairperson? I think I'm hearing someone.
You can proceed. I think someone's mic was just erroneously unmuted, but I'll just monitor the situation. Sorry.
No problem. I fully understand. So yeah, so we do have NEC, PEC, and then we also have then myself as the professional. Then we, in terms of the 3 units, human settlements, development planning, and roads and transport, we I then have chairpersons or who are councillors for each, but then I actually do the reports towards that basically as the facilitator. So, all right, so now there's various clusters, but the one that is more relevant to GPMA, which is a cluster that I'm also under, is infrastructure delivery, spatial transformation, and sustainability. So it's called the IDS cluster, right? So the purpose of the cluster is to advocate for creation of an enabling environment and support municipalities in the delivery of infrastructure and related services in the sustainable and inclusive manner. So I believe then this is very relevant to the work that GPMA is doing, because we're looking at infrastructure and you know, yeah, so the built environment as a whole. And then the cluster anticipated impact statement we have is that municipalities are empowered to improve the quality of life in their respective communities through improved, well-maintained infrastructure and socio-economic services, all done while pursuing a low-carbon, resilient socio-economic development. So municipalities should be able then to provide these services. All right, so then okay, looking further down then from the cluster level, then we go down to a sub-cluster level or portfolio. The three, well, yes, you know that a portfolio then is a collective of maybe functions, right? So I'm then the portfolio head at Gauteng SALGA office. So we've got three then functions there. So we've got the built environment and planning. Oh, sorry, not to confuse these colleagues. We're still under the IDS structure. Sorry about that. I just got disrupted then. So under the IDS structure, sorry, there's three sub-clusters, right? The built environment, which I am the head at the Gauteng provincial office, right? And then we've got human settlements, development planning, and infrastructure, roads, and public transport. Then you've got another subcluster there, which is health, community, and services. And then you've also got municipal sustainability, right? But we're going to be zooming in on the built environment and planning, which is more relevant to GPMA. That's my portfolio. All right, so the first unit then is the planning, land, agriculture, and rural development. So we are looking here at planning related issues. As myself, I am a professionally registered town planner with site plan in good standing. I should mention that, and I'm also affiliated with SAPI. I'm the current Gauteng chairperson of SAPI, South African Planning Institute. So yeah, so we are now looking at planning related issues. So we are supposed to then support municipalities in terms of SPLUMA, that is the legislation behind it and their implementation. So we do know that DALRAD and COCTA are actually the departments that are actually custodians of SPLUMA, or well, DALRAD is the custodian, but then COCTA is then the oversight in that respect. So then SALGA then in terms of representing the municipalities and making sure that we support them so that they also comply with SPLUMA, we are then part of that ecosystem. So we also have rural development as part of the first unit. But as you will know that Gauteng is not as rural. Actually, Gauteng is more urban, but we do have some district rural development plans for the two districts in Gauteng. So we do have rural aspects, but it's more on agriculture more than anything else. So then the second unit under the built environment portfolio is then the infrastructure, roads, and transport. So we are then confronted with issues of roads. I do remember that the meeting we had with Katlego and the rest of the board members was about, we spoke about potholes and so forth. I mean, that's a major issue now throughout South Africa. So we actually do have a program, but I'll allude to that later on, that speaks to potholes. Yes, and so roads and stormwater and so forth. Then also the third unit then is the human settlements. So this is then your housing delivery. So we are in collaboration with the Gauteng Department of Human Settlements, and we are supporting them. So it's a human settlement support program that we provide as SALGA. So I hope that is making sense, colleagues. So Yes, then currently, because with myself, I'm actually going for 2 years now being at SALGA. So before myself, there wasn't a professional appointed at SALGA. So there's a lot of work, groundwork that we have done to actually establish relevant events whereby we can actually meet with key stakeholders in the built environment sector, if I may. So, for example, the Gauteng Urban Forum, I believe that's where GPMA also attended last year. We actually had our inaugural event last year. It was by the Rand Park Golf Club. I think it was in September. So we were starting with that, where we actually wanted to have, I know that, for example, with GPMA, you guys are having a forum right now. There's Pluma Forum, there's GIS forums, and all sorts of forums in the built environment. But here we actually wanted on a provincial level to actually bring key stakeholders, the municipalities themselves, first of all, the 11 municipalities of Gauteng, and then also key stakeholders like your GCROs, you know, where there's a lot of research that is being done and they analyze the municipalities, the Office of the Premier, which is very instrumental in providing like your GIS support and so forth. We also invited CSIR. We also had MISA represented there. So definitely now going forward, because we are doing the MOU now with GPMA. So we will then be concluding that. Oh, Chairperson, before I proceed, I didn't actually gather how much time do I have for the presentation so that I actually try and stick to the time.
You have time until 10 past 11.
All right, thank you so much. Oh, that's quite a lot of time. Thank you. All right, so then, so we've got the Gauteng Urban Forum. So we are basically trying to look at your urban issues in Gauteng, right? We know that there's urban decay, so it's essentially a response to the urban decay that is happening. So obviously it includes everything in built environment, your roads, you know, I mean, it's visible that we see potholes everywhere, you know, so it looks at planning issues. So you know, management of even the bylaw implementation. We see, you know, like other issues like your backyard housing that is popping up that is not really being managed well. Then you've got your, so even human settlements issues where we support because we're still having informal settlements and so forth. So that needs to be managed collectively. All right, so then there's also the Gauteng Property Investment Showcase, of which this financial installment is actually going to be part of the number 5 you see there on your screen, the National Local Government Property Summit, of which GPMA will also be part of that Gauteng panel. So they've secured a panel for us to then deal with the Gauteng property investment as part of the property summit, because then both events are happening in the same quarter, in the same province. So it wouldn't have made sense to have 2 events whereby we're going to be confusing our audience. So I hope that makes sense. Then we've got the special transformation webinars that we do. We did have one last year in Q3. So yes, so there is a special transformation program that also is part of responding to the urban decay matters that we are addressing. And also we do know that, for example, like mostly the metros, they do have like your inner city revitalization programs and so forth. But essentially all of this is touching on spatial transformation, which is part of SPLUMA, right, or the mandates of SPLUMA. So then we also have the National Urban Forum. So that's on a national level, connecting to the Gauteng Urban Forum, which is at a provincial level. But we had the inaugural one in Sandton in 2024, just after I arrived, and then we had second installment in Durban last year. But I think there's also talk of it being a biannual instead of it being an annual event, so that we also allow, you know, for example, SECPLAN, because they also have their planning in Daba, and also this SACT's network and other organizations that are in that space, so that we don't congest, you know, the members or the professionals. So then the IGF structures that we are exploiting currently, and which we have also worked hard to be a part of and to formulate those relationships, as I did allude earlier on, is that we are part of the Human Settlements Program. There's currently an accreditation task team which deals with the Human Settlements Program that they are doing. So as you know that the cities, well, the metros and also the intermediary municipalities, the ICMs, they are the ones who are also rolling out the housing mandate on behalf of the Department of Human Settlements. So before they actually roll it out, they have to be accredited. Basically, it's sort of like to just vet them to make sure that they are able to administer the Human Settlements Housing Program. All right, so then we also have the Gauteng Provincial Splum Forum. So as we know that, as I spoke to Spluma, the Act, so there are then those quarterly Splum Forums, we're also a part of that. And then also the Gauteng Provincial GIS Forum. We're actually having the Q4 one happening this Friday in the Office of the Premier. This is actually being led by the Office of the Premier. And maybe colleagues, maybe just to allude on this one that, the Office of the Premier is actually quite well vested. There's actually a call right now. Sorry, colleagues. All right, so the Office of the Premier in Gauteng is quite vested as I said, that they actually do have the GIS. They've invested a lot of money in securing GIS capacity, and so that is quite praiseworthy. And so as SALGA, we have partnered with them. There's actually a network, or sort of like a collaboration we've done with them, with DALRAD also, and MISA and COPTA. So it's called the Geospatial Enabling and Advisory Network. So GENE, that is, we actually had a meeting yesterday where we're actually now supporting municipalities directly from the capacity from the Office of the Premier. Then also we have the Gauteng Vehicle Licensing Task Team. So this is speaking to vehicle licensing. As you know, that there are 7 municipalities that actually discharge the service on behalf of the Gauteng Department of Roads and Transport, where people do their vehicle licensing renewals and so forth. So we manage that, because there's also issues there where there might be unfair arrangements and so forth. Then also we've got the G13 plus and CPD revitalization workstream. That is with COPTA. COPTA is actually spearheading that, as we will know that colleagues from last year's G20 and U20, this is actually the child of that, if I can say that. But as at least COPTA then is trying to have a continuation beyond, which also connects to the CPD revitalization work stream. And I know that there's various other work streams that are there. Then, so then there's also the urban management sub-working group. I'm also trying to keep track of time, colleagues. So then there's various interventions that we are part of. So I've alluded to the GENE on the previous slide with our collaboration with the Office of the Premier in terms of the GIS support. Yes, so that is an intervention that we are trying to assist the municipalities to capacitate them with their GIS. And I need to be honest with you, colleagues, that you would be surprised that Gauteng municipalities, well, with the exception of the metros, but the rest of the municipalities are still far behind when it comes to GIS capacity. It's quite shocking, but at least we are then privileged as SALGA to also be part of that, and also to assist the Office of the Premier to capacitate municipalities. Because I mean, without GIS, then you can't really do efficient planning, even financial planning, apart from just the urban planning, financial planning and so forth, because there's capital expenditure frameworks that must be done, and you need to geospatialize everything. It's much easier when things are digitized, they're on GIS, if you catch what I mean. So the second intervention then is the human settlement support program. There's blocked projects in terms of human settlements. So hence why then you see a lot of squatter camps. There's a lot of projects that were supposed to have been implemented by human settlements that have not happened, based on various blockages with municipalities. So human settlements is actually the one who's the project manager. They've appointed consultants, but municipalities maybe have not approved development applications, or maybe other issues, maybe land issues, and so forth. So yeah, and then there's also the Roads and Transport Taxi Violence Shongwe Commission report. So there was that commission that was concluded, the Shongwe Commission. So we're actually currently now liaising with the municipalities to make sure that the recommendations of that report are implemented, but also just to gauge. Currently, right now, we're just gathering information to find out in terms of how far are the municipalities in that implementation of that. Then also there's a pothole filling program. It's part of the expanded public works programs. So there is training that is taking place. We've got a service provider through CITA who's actually training youth around Gauteng. So, but there is identified municipalities, because not all municipalities have been responsive in this. We made a call to all 11, but only a couple then, well, not just over a couple actually wanted to be part of. Because another thing is that maybe I should also bring this to light is that there's also awareness from the councillors that once you train the youth, then there's an expectation for employment and all sorts of things. So rather, maybe they don't go there, which is also, it's one of those catch-22 situations, because we are looking at upskilling the youth, you know, but that's another argument for another day, colleagues. Then moving on, we also in collaboration with or in assisting the Pretoria Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I saw that you guys are also part of you're also in collaboration with the Randburg Chamber of Commerce. So we are in collaboration with the Chambers of Commerce. So there is a Villa Mall development that has been delayed. So we are also trying to intervene with that in Pretoria East. Then there's also the COCTA partnership with the regulatory compliance engagements. So in this intervention now, we are trying to actually look at ways of how do we fast track development applications? How do we fast track SPLUMA approvals within municipalities? I know that maybe 10 to 20 years back, there were such, but these things, they sort of like died down and we need to resuscitate them. And you find that in some instances, they bring back that fast tracking committee, if you may, they bring it back only for a particular project because there's millions and billions. You know how political things are, right? Which is actually not really a right way of doing things, because we should be having an ongoing fast tracker to make sure that, you know, whatever blockages that are there, just to make a simple example, for example, you will have, because some of you might not know, but if you're submitting a development application, sometimes, well, not sometimes, you have to circulate it within the municipality. So maybe you circulate it to storm water and roads, for example, unit. So what happens if maybe, let's say, maybe that's the only person, the professional, maybe they are on sabbatical, I'm just making an example, or maybe they are incapacitated. So basically there is no capacity in terms of that stormwater and roads. Then what do you do? Then that file stays there without the comments, and then that affects now the chain of the whole process of the approval, the SPLUMA approval within that municipality. So then once you then bring together these fast trackers, then you are quick then to say, okay, maybe then let's use another resource, maybe from the district, I'm just making an example. So that it is that way. I mean, it's one of those issues where we just make sure that we are keeping track. So we're trying to also work with consultants in this regard to see, even in terms of technological advancements, what innovations can be used to actually fast track, so that once people submit a development application, they're able to then check as to how far is it and how long is it going to take, just on a click of a button, things like that. So then also the Spatial Transformation Barometer and Data Hub. So that was part of the other programs, as I alluded earlier on. But yes, we are basically trying to enforce spatial transformation in the municipalities. But SALGA then did come up with a barometer, which is sort of like a set of, I think it's 7 indicators, you know, to actually gauge the extent of the spatial transformation within a municipality. Right, so it's something that SALGA has come up with. Maybe you can ask a question about that later on. But yes, because we actually need to we know that it's part of the SPLUMA mandate or objectives to actually deliver spatial transformation in South Africa. So then the question then is, then how do we then identify, or how do indicators then we're able to then be able to explain the extent of the spatial transformation itself. So then obviously then data is also connected to that. So there's a data hub that just SALGA we are putting together to collect this information from the municipalities. So one key program that we also wanted to just allude to, we've actually, there's in terms of the CBD revitalization, right? We appointed a service provider last year, and they've just completed the program now. which is various CBD interventions, in Gauteng. So we've got a close-out report in that regard. Maybe I can share it if you're interested. But in any case, so the CBD revitalization strategy, Chair, am I hearing?
I will just mute their mic. Apologies for that.
No problem. All right, thank you, Chair. So the revitalization strategy for 9 old CBDs aimed to support urban renewal using a people-centric and participatory approach. So the delivery then was the implementation plans, right? So this is actually a second cohort from what COCT had done previously, I think in the year 2023, 2024. So then SALGA committed the next 10 cohort. As it is written there, that SALGA expanded the project from the original Gauteng COCTA 10 CBD revitalization cohort to develop detailed analysis of the case studies. Then also the scope shifted from document-based outputs to practical on-the-ground implementation using place processes. So that the place then is about platform to leverage area contributions and expertise. So it's centered in localization, right? It must be a bottom-up grassroots level approach, if you may. So because that's a thing. Let's be honest, colleagues, that most of the planning strategies and documents that we produce, they are too high level, conceptual. It's like it's very much on the top-down approach. We are leading from the top. We're not actually sensitive to what is happening on the ground. So with our implementation plans, then we are actually very much in the communities, as you can see in the 4th point there. So the 10 CBDs, we've got then Bronkhorstspruit under City of Tshwane, Johannesburg under Mogale City. We had Carltonville and Forchville under Merafong. Then we had Vanderbijl Park under Mfuleni, and we had Didier at Midvaal, and we also had Randfontein and Western area under Rand West City, and then also Heidelberg and Devon under Lesedi. So Chairperson, I know that you gave me until 11. But maybe I don't want to bore people by talking too much. So I will just pack it here for now and give it over to you and your audience. Thank you so much.
No worries, Mr. Twala. I'm sure you can obviously talk the whole day about the very, very, very vast work that SALGA is really busy with. And I think a dialogue would really help. I saw Wayne wanted to come in during your presentation. I was tempted to stop you, but I was like, okay, let me just let you finish and then I'll bring him in. Wayne.
Mr. Chairman, thank you so much. And thank you so much for the update in terms of the work that SALGA is doing. My question to SALGA in terms of GIS, is the plan to have a system that basically gathers information about all municipal assets, including municipal services, including crime patterns, crime trends, risk, hazards, etc., per region, to have a holistic view of what we're dealing with? Or are we not going that deep? I just need to understand that, because the reason why I'm asking this question is the following. We've been part and parcel of the G20 city revitalization program since the start of everything. I think this was 2022. What we're not seeing at this point in time is government actually inviting the private sector to sit and co-develop and co-design plans for different specific municipalities and areas. I know it is a function of government, but yet again, you are missing the opportunities of literally stepping out of an ever chasing to repair or chasing to satisfy clients approach, than to become proactive. And I think having a tool without having all the other things is kind of saying, yes, we are moving in a specific direction. My question is, how long is that going to take? The need is immediate, and I think the opportunities, and I like what you said was, let's start looking at what we can start getting done and done immediately. And I think that's where most of the team on this call is. We want to see things happen. People are tired of talk. People are tired of sitting in meetings. And the year is going. I mean, we in March already. Q1 is on its back of 2026. And it's 2026. So when are we going to start seeing some serious fixes? That's just my take. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Wayne. I'm gonna just allow Mr. Twala to respond.
Thank you so much, Chair, and also Wayne, for that insightful view and also the question that you are raising. You know, it's all well and good that at least, you know, the private sector is ready. Maybe I can use the word, you are shovel ready, you are ready to partner, you are ready to take over. If I can use that word, I hope I don't offend, but you are willing to, you know, take the bull by the horns, because obviously then municipalities are struggling, right? But then, I mean, if you look at it then from SALGA's point of view, we are saying as the big brother that municipalities, get yourselves checked, get yourselves in line, right? Do the right thing. Because fundamentally then, Wayne, you know, we have to just take a step back and say, in the first place, municipalities are supposed to be functioning optimally. I mean, a municipality is actually a business, actually. You know, they make a revenue, they've got assets, they've got an operational plan, they've got an operational budget and so forth, right? So it's essentially municipalities are a business, but then the politicization of municipalities has actually led us to where we are today, right? So obviously then within the informants where we have that municipalities are still led by the council, which is a political structure, right? But you do have then your technocrats from the MM himself, and also to the rest of the technicians and professionals under the MM, right? They are then supposed to be the people that they're supposed to be then the driver, the engine. But obviously we do understand that in most, which is what has happened, that the professionals were actually frustrated by the politicians, excuse me for that. So in essence, a municipality then must have its own GIS component or a unit or a GIS instrument or a tool to actually effectively run the municipality. I mean, this cuts across all, and it's a very good point that you are raising. You know, GIS, I mean, it's part of the AI of things, and you know, technology, and the what is it, the fourth generation, you know, so we are going there. So then GIS becomes fundamentally important to municipalities, that then as SALGA, we ought to urge them that do make sure that you've got this capacity. Starting from the software itself, you'd be surprised that, you know, there's lack of software, let alone computers and other gadgets that are actually able to process or work with the software. Let alone the professional, because we also do have, sorry, we also do have GIS recognized, you know, professional accreditations, you know. So how about getting those specialists to then actually allow them to do that work, gather the information, get that data, you know. So you also touched on, for example, your services, you know. I mean, GIS will actually assist in terms of making sure that we monitor maintenance, water supply, pipelines, and so forth. You know, if maybe there's a leak, maybe there's an app that's available in a community where they can take a picture and then report that to their municipalities, and then that is of geo-referenced, and then that's immediately fed into the GIS system. Those are tools that municipalities are supposed to have. It's not a matter of if or maybe, they should. I think that's a fundamental conversation. Then obviously in terms of the municipality appointing then consultants, reaching out to the private sector for them, then to then set up those, then obviously, I mean, that's part of the normal bidding processes and so forth, right? But yeah, that is essentially what is happening, that each municipality must have its independent GIS tool or framework, or a policy, GIS unit, GIS professional at least, or a specialist, someone who will actually guide the data processing, because it's mostly on the data, so that we do our financial planning, we do our infrastructure maintenance, infrastructure investment. It must be a data-driven process. So the data also helps us to, the GIS also helps us to collect the data, right? Where we know that, for example, we can put hierarchies in terms of where is a higher demand. I mean, there's a lot of data analysis that can come from this. And essentially, municipalities do need to, I almost said comply, but it's not a legislation. But I think innovations is something that is fundamental in the municipalities themselves. I hope I have answered it like that, but I'm truly appreciating. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks for that response, Wayne. Are you happy?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's important also as a warning, maybe to centralize the department that basically manages all software licenses and stuff. Because when municipalities literally buy software, they sometimes forget or refuse to pay those license fees. Guess what? All the work that has been done by all the analysts and stuff like that, it gets thrown away just because they haven't catered for license fees. Thanks for that. That is all I wanted just to add. Thanks. Amazing.
Ruggiero?
Thanks, Chair, and thanks to Tobela for a great overview of the what SALGA does. As you know from our previous discussions, we have a huge challenge of invaded properties, hijacked properties, both municipal and private. But my one question is, and I just can't seem to get an answer, and who is going to take responsibility for the brick and mortar structures, shacks and other structures built on sidewalks and roads. We have a huge challenge at the moment to see who's going to arrange eviction orders and relocation of the people. But the biggest challenge is that nobody's taking responsibility to arrange eviction orders to remove and demolish the structures on the streets and sidewalks. And this just continuously increases, and the encroachment never stops. So maybe you've got some suggestions who we could approach for that, please. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, Chair. Sorry. First, I wanted also maybe just respond to Wayne's question before I come into the Rugero's point. Yes, Wayne, you are actually quite correct. Maybe you've got discernment with you. The Office of the Premier actually is providing those licenses for the municipalities. So they've invested millions of money into this. So exactly because of the fact that there's inconsistency in terms of the licensing with the municipalities. So you are absolutely correct. And the Office of the Premier then has taken it upon itself to then, basically champion that. I'm not too sure how far is it gonna go, but it's definitely something that you can be rest assured that it's something that is gonna be for quite some time. Thank you so much. And then coming then to Mr. Rugero's point, yes, yes, the hijacked buildings in the inner city, and then also, illegal or what you call unlawful land occupations. And I am actually aware that even in Sandton, we do have now squatter camps and so forth. Yeah, this is just a huge, it's a huge pain nationally, and it's tied to the urbanization issue, as we will know, and so forth, but also maybe connected also to the slow delivery of the human settlements by the department, the relevant department. So the issue now with the evictions, right? Because even currently at SALGA, we have a workshop that is going to be held, I think on the 25th, I'm not too sure. But around that week, there's going to be a national workshop on the PIE Act. So the PIE Act, the PIE, Prevention of Illegal Evictions, which is the act that is actually counterproductive, as based on what you are saying, because now it actually prevents people from being evicted, as we know that actually, it sort of like takes away the constitutional right of people having a place or a roof over their head, right? So that is in essence the problem. And I do know that there is a clause there that says that, I think maybe it's 24 hours or 48 hours, once you see a structure being built, and if you don't stop it within that time frame, once it's over 24 or 48 hours, I'm not too sure, then it's like the settlement is that you can't evict that person, essentially. So the prevention of, and another thing is that if you then evict the people, you must provide alternative accommodation. So now the onus now is on the person, is on the landowner, on top of the fact that now you are frustrated because the value of your property has gone down. You've got these unwelcomed guests in your property, right? But now you must look for alternative accommodation. So that is actually, yeah, it's quite interesting, but it's constitutionality, it's the constitution that we have which protects both the criminal, if I can say that, or maybe let me rather put it in the right context, the illegal occupier and also the landowner, right? But I'm just saying that it's the constitution covers everybody. Everyone is protected, because we are essentially trying to avoid homelessness. So in that regard, unfortunately, then Rugero, it's quite a very unfortunate situation there, that it essentially then the municipalities are not actually, because in essence, municipalities should have actually appointed, personnel. I mean, there's also amapanyaza. Maybe those amapanyaza personnel were supposed to be deployed to monitor and to just be on the ground, so that if there's anything popping up, there's a community, there's an illegal settlement that's growing or that's being identified, immediately we shut it down within that 24 or 48 hours, so that then it doesn't become an illegal or declared unlawful settlement in that regard. So that then you know what I mean. So such instances, so there's a lot of interventions and there's a lot of loopholes, but at the same time, the metros are not really, I mean, it's just even in terms of bylaw enforcement, in terms of planning and human settlements, we know that there's grossly unfair bylaw compliance, or people are not really, and funny enough, we've got high unemployment. So how about employing the unemployed planners, the graduates, for them to do, for example, human settlements and planning related, oversight and site visits and such the likes, things like that. But obviously, then you also need a budget. But there is a lot of money that is actually being misdirected. For example, there's a lot of wastage on the water tankers that are being hired. There's a lot of wastage there. Because half of that money could be used, for example, for maintaining actually the actual leaking pipes and all those things, and then half the other money can be used to employ, unemployed graduates to actually assist in monitoring and such. So, it's quite politically driven, and I'll just be honest about that. But it's unfortunate now that the communities are affected. The values of the properties of the property owners, they are dropped, exceed, yeah, in a nightmare type of a way, the safety, let alone this, the value, but now the safety issues, even just pure, cleanliness issues and yeah, it's basically the broken window cycle. The community is actually going down, overall. If I can say that, there's pollution, all sorts of things, waste management, so yeah, I hope that I've given you a bit of an overview and but it's one of those where, to be honest with you, there's no direct answer to it currently, but we do know that there's currently the review of the PI Act. So the PI Act is the bone of contention because it strips away the powers from the landowner to deal with trespassers. In essence, right? So you now, as a landowner, once you've got people who have occupied your land for more than, is it 24 to 48 hours, you can't evict those people. They are protected, but yet they are illegal occupiers. So but it's a very good debate. But let's just, I think I saw a comment that GPMA has also been active and also commenting in that review process. So that is also well appreciated, and that should be encouraged, that we do need those comments and those reviews. And another thing also, just maybe, sorry about that, just maybe also to say that this is the issue, that a lot of the legislations and the policies were actually stalled from actually the reviews. That's another issue that we have. Something happened from after 2010 where a lot of the reviews that were supposed to happen didn't happen. So even the PI Act was actually essentially supposed to have been reviewed more than 10 years back, but that hasn't happened. So now we are finding ourselves in this situation. So it's an inherited situation based on the fact that we didn't efficiently review, because the review just, must happen at least, I think, every 5 years, somewhere along those lines, where we actually just try and make sure that the legislation is still in track, it's connected to the real issues on the ground. So that's another thing. The PI Act review has been delayed for more than a decade. So that's why we are finding ourselves here. But unfortunately, those are the policies of legislation. Chairperson, I'm not gonna, but I see that there are comments being made in the chat box. I hope you will note them. Thank you, Chair.
Yes. Yes, the first initial comment was from Catherine Cox, who had just said for the session that you mentioned around the PI Act on the 25th, would that invite be open for GPMA members to attend?
Yes, it's open to everyone. In fact, what can I do? Yes, I definitely have to share that. It's just that right now it will be a bit, but just I can forward that to you, and then you can circulate it with your members. But it's a first come, first serve, so we'll definitely appreciate. But as I did allude to, but no, that's not the property summit is where we are inviting GPMA. So with the PI one, then then we'll just obviously appreciate your attendance there. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks so much for that. And then this is a comment from Mary from the Randburg area, saying that there are no overnight safe spaces or shelters for homeless persons. And this is what makes relocation really difficult, and hence the explosion in illegal shelters.
Yeah, that's correct. That's true.
Yeah. Yeah, Mary used to work for the homelessness network, so she would kind of obviously have experience in that. And then Wayne just said that this is definitely a case that needs to be heard, and one needs to review the current resource availability versus the population, and the impact will be seen there. And also, we don't have money for staff to support the population, and this is becoming a human safety and security issue. And this includes the security of water and electricity. So his fear is for the food and medicine.
Yeah. All right. I think maybe just to respond that, it's quite mind-boggling. In the inner city of Joburg, for example, there's a lot of deserted buildings, empty buildings, which are actually being hijacked by syndicates, right? And they are, obviously there's corruption there with some of the officials, and we just need a commission on that one alone. So obviously then, I mean, with disinvestment from the inner city of Joburg, and obviously this is now human capital. These are people, these are laborers that could be, trained and working with NGOs and so forth. So that's essentially what I'm just agreeing with the comment there, that, so there is no places where these people could be taken to. So, but yet we've got buildings that are empty. So it's quite funny for me, as a professional, as a planner. It's a 1+1 is 2. I mean, we've got a need of housing or accommodation, especially in Gauteng, but yet we've got empty buildings. So how about then those property? Well, the property owners, some of them also are government. You've got a lot of public works, national and provincial buildings that are empty. You've got a lot of municipal buildings and properties that are empty. So it's a simple math, but it's not happening. And I mean, it's one of those where maybe human settlements could have actually had another program apart from just building RDP houses, which is a capital project, basically. You know, with capital projects, there's a lot of money. So maybe we do know that there's a lot of interest with that, right? But on the side, I mean, parallel to that, how about having a program where we actually are reusing the available housing resources at our disposal, you know, and that way we you know, we make sure that also we centralize labor, because these people that are unemployed, it's a labor force, it's a human capital, you know, it's actually, there's value to them, you know. Yeah, so, but anyway, I just wanted to respond to that point. Thank you so much, Jim.
No problem, no problem. Really, sorry for keeping you waiting. You can just come in.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Tobela, for an insightful presentation. I just have one question. So I'm from Jozi Majozi. So my question relates to whether you've crafted a strategic rehabilitation plan for the inner city of Johannesburg that is actionable, you know, that can be measured and obviously executed. You know, because I mean we know the state of play within the inner city. So I'm just kind of inquiring whether you guys have crafted anything to that effect.
Thanks for that, really. And to add to that, I think we can also just ask, what role do you see the precincts playing in terms of municipal governance, and how can, you know, SALGA put in the necessary practical steps to help standardize this role and model across the province?
Okay, thank you so much, Chair. Okay, I'm recognizing Rayleigh from Jozi My Jozi, JMJ. Well, with City of Joburg, as part of the Cocta First cohort, there was the inner City of Joburg, or a portion of it was part of the CBDs that we identified. But I mean, these CBDs are throughout Gauteng, so it's not. So with for example, with the second cohort that SALGA did, we didn't focus on City of Joburg. We went outside to all, it's provincial wide, right? So I think then, if I do also gather, is that there's the presidential Joburg working group, where Jozi My Jozi was also a part of, and also Cocta was much part of that. And also in terms of the work streams and the G13, I think that G13 work that I alluded to earlier on, of which really I think you should be quite familiar with those. But that's already a program that is set for the City of Joburg as a metro. So as SALGA, then ours is to, I mean, the City of Joburg is not the only municipality. We've got 10 other municipalities and other metros. But it's a very good point you are raising. But I think for Joburg, for City of Joburg, there is an existing structure. But yeah, so maybe then what you are trying to raise is the frustration, maybe. But I think in terms of those G13 CPD issues, you know, I think that is part of the program that City of Joburg is vested in. As SALGA, then we can't really dictate what happens there, because it's part of the work that Cocta is doing in collaboration with City of Joburg, and Jozi My Jozi is also there. Right, so maybe, I don't know, maybe you can then raise the concerns that you have in terms of how that structure is operating, which can assist me, for example, to say that maybe where can SALGA fit in that regard. But in any case, really, I think maybe in that structure that is existing, there's nothing stopping you guys from actually approaching SALGA, whereby, for example, you feel that maybe City of Joburg, the council is not responsive, because that's where another thing that, you know, as SALGA, we come in to actually relay information to the councillors. I know that a lot of the programs that any metro or even a municipality is doing, you'll find that it doesn't have political appetite. So you then approach SALGA to say, look, we've got this program, or we've got this particular intervention or project that we want to do. And you know, you've done the costing, or maybe you've got sponsors and so forth, and it's just that maybe you need some bylaws to be relaxed, or you need a political buy-in, then you approach SALGA, and then through the provincial executive committee, we've got a chairperson. Then we can then approach the mayor, even the deputy now, deputy mayor of City of Joburg, so that these then programs can find expression, or they can be implemented. So we need to actually understand. So, for example, with the existing G13, that's purely technical. It's technocrats gathered together. Politicians are not there. So that's what you're finding as the gap within the municipalities, is that, there are programs that are being done, private sector is involved, but then the politicians are disconnected to that. So SALGA then needs to come in to bring both in. So we can come in to say, okay, Mayor, apparently there's this program, which we think is a very good program, by the way, right? So there's this program that is being done in collaboration with PJWG, and JMJ is also involved, COPTA and so forth. So now we want to actually have political buy-in, so that maybe we relax some certain bylaws or whatever that has to happen. So how can we then, so it's something that is due. The mayor cannot then turn down SALGA. It's one of those. I hope I'm giving you a perspective here, but I actually would appreciate maybe you expand more, or maybe if you actually get where I'm coming from. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that at least I don't miss your point. But just to make sure that I emphasize the role that SALGA now has to play in that space. I think, Chair, maybe let's allow Really maybe to, is he satisfied with my answer, or maybe then does he want to elaborate, or maybe has he taken note of my advice in terms of maybe how then SALGA can be approached in that regard? Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, sure, really.
No, thanks, Tobela. And I mean, I think I take note of what you're saying, and I want to just kind of echo what Wayne said in his opening statement. We're tired of talking, and we're tired of sitting in boardrooms. We want to see tangible evidence of things being done. And it seems to be pockets of excellence in different parts of the city. What I don't see is a consolidated plan that talks about rehabilitating the inner city, because of the dependencies that are linked to it. And maybe I'm a little bit ignorant to it, and my apologies if I am. But I mean, we don't have a plan that says fix the homelessness, which will sort, crime. Fix A, which will have an impact on B. You know what I'm saying? We're not seeing that value chain coming through in terms of how one activity would impact another activity. And if it exists, my apologies, I am obviously ignorant of it, but I think there has to be a conversation somewhere that says, let's not do things in isolation from each other. Let's do things that have a ripple effect, and ultimately, you see the end result through a structured throughput process. If I look at Josie Majosi, we started with the old strategy around installing solar lights, because that is a high impactful activity for the safety of the people in the city of Johannesburg. And we are progressively doing that. And we know what is the impact of it. The impact is that it gives the residents of the city a safer place to. So I think that is something, and I mean, I'd like to, maybe we can take an offline conversation, but it's something that needs to be flagged some way that says, where do we start and where do we land? Thank you.
Definitely.
That's my comment.
Thanks for that, Rally. I think this really echoes what we experience a lot of in terms of operational bottlenecks with municipal entities. To answer your question, there are quite a few policy levers that are utilized, from your IDP, Integrated Development Plan, all the way to your NDP, National Development Plan. I think the shortfall comes from the coordination of all these policies, avoiding duplication, who to speak to, operational deficiencies. So maybe I wanted to pose it as a question to Tobela in terms of how can SALGA strengthen the coordination mechanisms that exist, to essentially speak to what Raleigh is saying, to strengthen the precinct level investment and support the initiatives going on the ground.
Thank you so much, Chair, for that. Very good question indeed. The issue of coordination, something that can be quite simple, but because of various layers, just maybe to give a fundamental perspective there. I mean, with City of Joburg, for example, you've got the JPC, which is the Joburg Property Company. You've got JRA, you've got all these other agencies within one metro, and it's like they are all mandated, they've got their budgets, and they are also politically influenced, right? But then, okay, in terms of what is existing, I don't know if, but I think Raleigh should be aware of the homelessness. There's a homelessness IGR structure, which is being driven by province. I'm not too sure with which provincial department is running with that, but I think they meet, if not every week, it's probably every 2 weeks or something like that. So that's another thing that's confusing. That's confusing now. Is provinces driving programs, right? But yet what is it? At the forefront is the municipalities. And it's like now province is running the program and municipalities must merely report. It's like a reporting structure. And it's like you if you attend these meetings, it's a weekly, report back. It's not really like, it's not like province is actually having a very they are very they are individually connected. Like we go to each municipality, we sit down, we have like separate sessions where we actually get deeper into the details and what's happening and what can be done. It's very much high level, and I'm trying to be honest here. I'm just giving an honest reflection. So you are having these high level provincial IGRs, of which I do understand that, okay, the MEC, well, the Premier is actually trying to keep his hand on the steering wheel, right? So the Premier is also then, urging the MECs to set up these structures, because we've got sector departments that are supposed to be providing these services, right? Then obviously the municipalities are the implementers, but it's quite a disconnect. It's quite a disconnect. I don't know if you were aware of that homelessness IGR. I'm just posing that question to yourself, Chair. So, but there is something like that, and for me, I just find them to be quite not as connected to what is really happening. It's more of they set up a reporting structure, and then every week municipalities must report. And it's not really individualized, it's quite, and then also you don't hear much of the funds and the budgeting that will support. So there is something like that. So in terms of the coordination, then you've got, for example, then your private sector. How do we then even bring in the private sector? You see, now it now brings another layer that is not really tapped into. How do we then effectively connect with the private sector? Because the private sector can play a role in terms of, contributing financially, intellectually, even by bringing plans. There are some of the programs that are already running. JMJ, for example, is an excellent example. But then it's like government is trying to coordinate this within its government structures, and that's separated from the private sector. So this is quite a bit of a conundrum, really. And as SALGA, it's like we find ourselves then, by default, we find ourselves, what's the word? We find ourselves then, you find yourself now in this IGR structure, and you don't know how it started, how it was formulated, because it's a provincial government program and they're supporting municipalities, right? And they've ticked the box. But then you come in there as SALGA and it's like it's already structured there. The municipalities are reporting, and then after some time things disappear, and maybe there's a close-out report presented to the Premier or the legislative. It's one of those where So it's, yeah, so I'm just being honest about what is essentially really going on the ground. So yeah, so the issue of coordination, it's really, but maybe let me just rather say, once at least the PI review process has been done, it can actually unlock certain locked doors, and it can actually give power to where it's due, you know. So once at least the property owners themselves, they do have the power to actually evict people out of their properties. And if maybe the city of Joburg, for example, has identified those vacant buildings, has earmarked those buildings, high-rise buildings there, that could be used for such centers, you know, for homelessness, for homeless people, then at least, you know, so, but that's the thing, we can't have that conversation if this review is not concluded. So I'm hoping that also I'm bringing in that, but I didn't want to give a cosmetic promise here. I'm not a politician. You know, I'm not going to be cosmetic about this. I'm gonna paint the picture as bleak as it is, but at the same time, I'm actually alluding to the legislative instrument, that is the PI Act, which is very key in us unlocking the opportunities that are happening. I hope I did try to answer. Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you for that analysis of municipal. We have kind of had, and it just opens up the conversation of how do we move forward from the current existing limitations. Tembinkosi?
Okay, thank you, Chair. And good day, colleagues. I'm Tending Process Ndana from the Johannesburg Tourism Company, which is an entity of the City of Johannesburg that is entrusted with tourism development and marketing of the City of Joburg as a destination. Um, just a request here. I just wanted to request Tobela to share the presentation, please. I missed the better part of the presentation, but I did pick up some points that I think are relevant to the work that you are doing in terms of the pressing revival, establishment, and upgrade of various persons across the city. So we are doing that work as part of the tourism master plan that we are currently developing. So I would like to have a look at that presentation and see how we can align that work with what Tobela has in the presentation.
Thanks, Tembinkosi. I'm sure we'll be able to just share that with you as soon as the meeting is done. And also for those who also want to see the presentation, it'll definitely be uploaded to our website as well. I think my question just before Wayne comes in is really because obviously SALGA has an oversight role and you are focused on human settlements, transport, and development planning as your portfolios in Gauteng. I wanted to understand, obviously, given the local government white paper that is being released soon, I think end of this month or so, how can organizations like our grouping, I know Rally also said this, and also Wayne said this around the co-design aspects. How can we better align with municipal capex planning processes, just to ensure that local investment translates into more measurable spatial transformation outcomes, if I can say? I think that's kind of the bigger question. How do we become more intrinsically involved in those processes?
Right. Thank you so much for that question. Yes, the local government white paper review that was done last year and it should be concluded. It was one of those also that were, as I said, were supposed to have been reviewed more than 10 years ago. Yeah, so it was quite an interesting one. It was quite an interesting one because the issues that you are raising, for example, collaborations, due collaborations with private sector and industry, for example, those were issues that were addressed and were raised in that review process. So there's definitely, I mean, the situation right now is crying for all sorts of hands that are available. So there is definitely no way that the government can close the door to that opportunity for more what your collaboration with private sector and big business. That is just I mean, because obviously the situation begs for more hands or for more pockets, if I may. Yeah, so, but I mean, tools like, for example, your SDF, and SDF is supposed to be like an investment document or something that it's like, it's supposed to be like a brochure where if people are willing to invest, okay, in SDF, maybe it's someone who's not a planner here, and SDF is a special development framework, right, document. So that actually shows the spatial planning or the spatial vision of that municipality. And then you can further break it down to precincts, for example, and corridors and so forth, right? But the umbrella then is the SDF. So the SDF is part of well, it must be connected to the IDP. It's you know, so that's a Spluma contribution to the IDP process itself. So it's a 5-year you know, tool that has to be reviewed obviously every 5 years, right? So that SDF is supposed to be that investment brochure whereby even if you've got international investors, they want to invest in your municipality, they just go through the SDF to look at, okay, where are the areas of maybe industry, or you know, or maybe they want to do a tech company or something like that. So where are the designated land uses as per the SDF? Where is it envisioned in that municipality? And then the investor can see if maybe they can align to that. So there are those existing tools, as I'm alluding to the SDF, or maybe an investment policy or document within a municipality. So those are supposed to be the existing tools, but obviously they are not being fully exploited, right? But I just want to agree with you, Katlego, that the local government white paper then definitely is now redressing a lot of those issues. Because another issue that was raised was that there's too much power being left to the politicians in the municipalities. And we know that in most cases, you know, the council members are not really your most educated, most enlightened in terms of business and other situations. They just see money. You know, in essence, once you just talk millions and billions, that's how you catch their attention. And that's how they prioritize the project. It might, even if in instances where there's maybe going to be major environmental impacts, you know, as long as they're just seeing the millions, they completely disregard environmental safety and all sorts of things. So yeah, so the the white paper review has actually looked at everything, the entire structure, for example, you know, and such the likes. So maybe some of the powers should not maybe be given to the council members. They should be given to the MMs, or maybe the heads of the directorates, you know, so that way, I mean, it's a technical person, or maybe there's another way of making sure that when you are approving that particular document by council, you know, you do have a technical or a professional advice, you know what I mean, that sort of like advises the council on what to do, and having looked at all the other relevant policies or affected policies. So yeah, that's in essence, that's what I just wanted to say, that they are existing investment tools, but they are not being used, because then you've got this structure where the council is the one that's blocking everything, right? So that's so, as you correctly alluded, Katlego, that white paper review will definitely redress how that is happening. Thank you.
Thanks for that. I see Tembinkosi kind of responded to say there is what I think is it a suggestion or something existing investment packaging catalog of investment opportunities and land parcels earmarked for those investments.
Yes, I think, Chair, yes, in some metros you will have an investment document. I mean, metros have got the financial muscle to do such, right? But the smaller municipalities, it's not something that is mandatory. So all you have is the SDF as your best bet, right? Or the IDP document, which is also a bit of a mandatory document. Some of the IDPs are quite empty. They are merely giving us maybe a reflection of what happened in the previous year. It's actually not drawing future investors. It's not futuristic. It's not trying to attract. I hope I'm giving you that investment mindset, which is lacking, in the municipalities. But yeah, absolutely, Temgosi is correct. Sure.
Wayne?
Yeah, Mr. Chair. It's very interesting to actually hear the conversation, and I'm always reminded about reality, and to sometimes actually speak about the elephant in the room. And I think, number one, race does not separate people in this country, it's politics. The mere fact that politics is playing its role in municipalities leaves a very bad taste in everybody's mouth in terms of progression, number one. I think what needs to happen is, as the role of SALGA, is to actually have a look at the impact of politics on daily service delivery. And I think this needs to come to an end. From my view is, the one thing that we need to be cognizant of is, if we make Gauteng super attractive without including all the other provinces around Gauteng to also take up exactly the same type of approach, we're shooting ourselves in the foot, because your semigration and your migration is going to happen overnight. And the PI Act literally opens up that door. Because I mentioned earlier, we don't have enough staff to literally take care of all the rules and laws that we have basically instilled for society. Enforcement is not taking place, more by law enforcement, nor law enforcement, nor crime prevention is taking place, because we have not catered for the population need. We don't have enough protectors to protect our country. And as I said, if we're focusing solely on Gauteng, we're going to shoot ourselves in the foot. We're going to be sitting back here in a good couple of years, and then we're going to ask ourselves the same question. So what do we do from now? Or where do we go from here? We need to start understanding that what is our saturation point in terms of population growth for Gauteng? When does it become untangible? When does it become impractical to actually live in this space? Because what's happening right now is, those that are paying, and has always been paying, are getting far less for the same money at an increased rate every single year. So you are going to be getting that frustrations from loyal customers. Then you're sitting on the other hand, for those who don't have, then will basically find a means and a ways of survival. And that is part of human nature. So we have to get down to the core issues. How are we going to be dealing with this from a practical solution point of view? Because there's two things that's going to happen. We're going to be throwing money into a big black hole because we can't see the bottom. And there's a lot of answers that we don't have at this point in time to make practical and tangible decisions in terms of which direction we should be going. And I think data is one thing we are not capitalizing on in terms of understanding how big this problem really is. And I think there definitely needs to be some type of a synchronization to pull this data in to actually see the bigger picture. That's my 2 cents worth, guys. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks for that, Wayne. It really says everything that needs to be said. Really, it was, apart from your GCROs, there's such limited data that we can really look at to get the magnitude of the issues being faced. And I think really prioritizing those initiatives that you just listed is really the way to go. Tobela, any last rebuttal to that or response?
Right. Thank you, Chair. Yes, Wayne is absolutely correct. In fact, Wayne, let's pay, what is it? Some respect to what is already existing, because essentially this is it's a data management and data implement. Well, I don't want to say implementation, or you implement, because if maybe you do data modeling, because the data is there, right? You've got your stats SA that tells us the rate of our urbanization, for example, in Gauteng alone, or even up to maybe a municipal level. You've got South African Cities Network, you've got the GCRO, you've got CSIR, even the Office of the Premier itself, the most political office in the province, is collecting data. So the data is there, Wayne, you know. The data is there, right? So it's a you know, it's a situation where obviously somebody does know the truth, and then there's an intentional, I don't want to say it's a self-sabotage, but there's an intentional disruption based on people prioritizing, as we said, that it's a political, and as you rightfully said, so that this is not racial, it's political, right? So yeah, but also to just raise on the point that using the data, then you model, right, the solutions based on the data. It's data informed. The data is there, right? So we know, for example, I mean, the current situation we have in Gauteng, that has been modeled. We know there are formulas for these things. Actuarial scientists, they model these things. We know, we were anticipating that in Gauteng we would be here, right? Where in terms of population growth, and also considering other factors of neighboring countries that, and also, you know, your, what you call, your illegal foreigners coming in, and all sorts of other things, intra-migration, inter-migration, and so forth. The data is that the science does inform what is actually happening. It's not like this is actually catching us with our pants down, if I can use that phrase. So the data is there. But now the modeling, and there's I think even National Treasury has come up with a number of models that are data informed in terms of what needs to happen. But National Treasury is also at a national level. They are not implementing, so they can merely propose the models, and then the municipalities or the councils, then obviously, I mean, those are just high level stuff. They won't really understand them. You know, so but the data is that the data modeling is there also, you know. I think the former head of Stats SA has been doing a lot of work in terms of that. He's a retired, I think, general of Statistics South Africa. He does actually rally this work around, you know, the data. The data is there. It's not like we didn't know that South Africa would be where it is today. But now the responses were not implemented. I think that's the implementation of that data, whereby now you make sure that you are anticipating what is about to happen based on the models which are very accurate. You know, the models are very accurate, but that has been ignored, right? So I'm just giving that, so that to say that as SALGA, we are aware that everything is data driven. Without data, you don't know what's left or what's right. You don't know what you have and what you don't have, right? So I just wanted to give that strong view, so that at least with the stakeholders that are gathered here, you also do understand that, okay, you know, it seems like with SALGA, we're actually on the same page, right? So we also need your collaborations, and there's various stakeholders here, various groups that are here, various organizations that are here or that are connected to GPMA that actually need to work with SALGA, right? In terms of those collaborations. Yeah, but I hope that I sort of like responded to that. Thank you, Chair.
Definitely. I think you summarized the conversation very effectively, and I think it's a really good place to close the agenda item, because really I think the main thing is to say there are these mechanisms that exist. There's the data sources that exist, policies that exist. It's more of now, how do we coordinate better? How do we, as you said, open up the conversation for more hands to be involved? And how do we better utilize existing mechanisms, and also countering existing acts that are being hindrances, like the PI Act. Hopefully, the workshop on 25th, I think you said, will at least put us at peace in terms of how to deal with the hijacked buildings. Because really, I was in another session and they alluded from a city of Johannesburg perspective that they'll only be able to successfully evict and relocate only 2 buildings by the end of this year. And I think that pace is very, very slow. So hopefully the workshop that happens on the 25th and other workshops and working sessions can be fruitful in just speeding up the process. I see you have already taken the liberty to leave your contact details. So for anyone in the session, please do reach out to Tobela. I'm very willing to listen to your ideas and strategize a way forward. Obviously, in the future, we'll be setting up some type of private workshop with the SALGA team just to take a few of your ideas forward and implement those. So definitely thank you for the engagement, guys, in terms of engaging with Tobela. Tobela, thank you for joining the session. I'm sure a lot of our colleagues will be reaching out to you to have further conversations. And yeah, just thank you for that. Thank you for that. Going to the next agenda item. I see Eugene is still in the meeting. Eugene, you can just come in. Obviously Eugene, as I said, is preparing what he terms a love letter for Johannesburg. So he'll just give us an update on where he is with that, and where he would like that partnership or assistance from us as the precincts and managed areas. So Eugene, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Katlego. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can very clearly.
The audio is working. Okay, perfect. Excellent. So thank you very much for having me. It's really happy to be speaking with you guys. It's been a while. It's been a few months. Some of you might remember last year I told you about the project, but then I'm kind of realizing it's not necessarily all the same people. So I don't want to talk for too long, but I'll just give like a very quick summary of who I am and what I'm doing. So first of all, last time I spoke with you guys, I was in Zimbabwe. I'm currently in Sydney. So I haven't actually been back in Joburg since I spoke with you guys. Essentially, the project that I'm working on is an independent project. It's not commercial. I don't have any funding or sponsorship for it. So I have to continue doing, I basically keep freelancing. I do work for clients and I do various things. But I'm coming back to Johannesburg next week. That almost fell apart because I was supposed to come with Qatar Airways, but it's all sorted and I'm traveling on Wednesday. I'll just briefly just summarize what I'm doing. So my background, I'm a documentary filmmaker. My background is in television documentary. I'm Australian, but I've been living and working in various cities around Africa for the last 2 decades. And over the last 2 decades, I've spent a lot of time in Johannesburg. And initially, I was very kind of intimidated by Joburg and sort of quite terrified of it in some ways. And but I had to come frequently and I had to spend a lot of time in the city for various reasons. And then at some point, I had this epiphany and realized that, this is where I feel at home, and Joburg is the greatest city in the world, and this is, I want to get to know it better. So I basically started exploring Johannesburg with my camera and started getting to know the city. And then COVID happened. And during COVID, I came up with a concept for this sort of documentary about the epic sort of story of Joburg and connecting the history with the present and all sorts of things. And so I've been basically filming content for that documentary since 2022. I come and go again because I have to keep doing other work. Some of you guys present, actually, I've interviewed you. So some of you already kind of know we've actually filmed in some of the places. But the documentary probably has another year to go of work on it. But in the meantime, and this is the main thing that I wanted to speak with you guys about today, I may have mentioned it last time because I can't remember how much I spoke about it because it was kind of the beginnings of it. But parallel to the film, parallel to the documentary, me and the people I'm working with, we're essentially going to start releasing much more regular content online. So we're going to have like a parallel channel on YouTube and across social media, which is just going to be dedicated to Joburg and Joburg culture and mini documentaries about various aspects of Joburg, kind of unpacking the city and trying to, you know, understand some of the issues, but also the visions for the future and, you know, different solutions people are coming up with, and just getting a grasp. And when I say Joburg, I should clarify, in the process of doing this project, I've realized that essentially Gauteng is a mega city, and you know, we have to be talking about the whole of Gauteng, essentially. So that's kind of what that's grown into. And the other thing we're going to be doing for this channel is sort of neighborhood deep dives. We actually started doing one just before I left Joburg. We've started the first one, which is Braamfontein, but just kind of in-depth looks at specific neighborhoods of Johannesburg and the history and the dynamics and the culture and, you know, the work that's being done and all this sort of stuff. So, and then some of the content as well is going to be just very practical Joburg content for people living there, for people visiting there, like almost like a user manual for the city. You know, how do you do things in Joburg? How do you get around? How does things work? We're just going to be doing kind of content about those sorts of things, just very practical Joburg things. And ultimately the kind of concept of it is just to, you know, essentially for me and the people I'm working with, we've built this amazing network and all these connections all over the city with different communities, and not all of it's going to make it into the film, but we just want to kind of start creating a focus online for just that conversation about the city and how different people feel about it and what needs to happen for it, you know, to be a place that actually works for the people that live in it. But also just all the incredible stuff that's happening. Like it is like one of the world, like when you're in Joburg, you have a front row seat to, you know, the greatest cultural capital in the world today. And we want to just let people know that you don't have to be scared of it. You don't have to be intimidated by it. It's incredibly friendly, you know, like I think I talked about this last time. I've never worked in a city that's more camera friendly. Everywhere I go in Johannesburg, people love cameras and everybody wants to be filmed and photographed, and business owners and entrepreneurs, they see a camera, they just say, just tag me. It's a wonderful place to be with a camera and so many people are just scared of it, you know, and that's really the concept here, is just to kind of introduce this idea that for all the problems that we've just heard about for the last throughout this meeting, Johannesburg is actually a city that you can enjoy and you don't have to be intimidated by it, and you can explore it. And there's ways of doing that. And so that's the kind of content. So we're going to be shooting the initial content for this channel over the next 3 months. And what I'm trying to do is not release anything too quickly. I want to have a backlog of content that we're happy with, so that we can just start releasing weekly content once we have, you know, once it's built up a little bit. And the funding for it, it's basically, again, it's completely independent. I am hoping that gradually we'll be able to, you know, do the usual thing online and have sponsorships and partnerships and so on. But I just feel that initially I wanted to get the concept right, and I wanted to really focus on the authenticity of it and just try and represent Johannesburg in a really, like in a real authentic way, in a way that everybody who lives in Joburg is actually going to be happy with it and say, okay, this is, you know, we're happy to have these guys come and film in our area. You know, they haven't misrepresented it. So we just want to get that right and get that authenticity right before we kind of think about any kind of, you know, financial, you know, monetization of the channel or anything like that. So that's kind of what we're going to be working on. I'm going to try and create as much content as possible in that time. And once we have that initial content, we're going to start releasing it. So yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot of synergy with the work that you guys are doing and all the different parts of Joburg, and we really want to collaborate in a productive way to represent different neighborhoods and just the real life of these places, and places that are actually functional in Johannesburg, where people come and walk in the streets and enjoy being there. So essentially, I'd love to, the kind of collaboration is essentially, you guys spend every day, working in different parts of Johannesburg, and I'd love to just be able to have conversations with you about, how to approach filming different parts of the city, and what's, what needs to be highlighted, and what, just ideas for, how best to tell the story. Also, when we walk through the streets, very often business owners see us filming and they just invite us in. So that we always have a good reaction when we film, but also it's a nice idea just to let, business owners and stakeholders in the area know that we're doing this, so that they know that it's happening. If they want to show us something or invite us in or whatever, highlight something, then, we're happy to do that. And of course, we never film any, we film in the streets a lot. We film in public places. We never go inside anybody's business without permission or unless we're invited. So as well, if there's things that you feel that are important to film, events or, new businesses launching or something that's interesting, but those are on private property, then any kind of assistance with, liaising with those people, getting the relevant, permissions that we need and so on. So that kind of thing, like basically I'd love to just be able to engage with everybody in Joburg as we're filming, and just kind of really be very strategic about, representing the different parts of Joburg in the real way, in an authentic way, but also a positive way. Because in spite of like all the dysfunctional things that we experience all around us, my feeling over 20 years is I think Joburg is moving in the right direction. I think it's the changes that I've seen are just absolutely amazing, and and I just want people to, I want to be able to, capture that. So that's basically the kind of, oh yeah, and also the other thing is that I mentioned, I talked about this last time. As I said, I find Joburg to be a very camera-friendly place. We film pretty much all over Gauteng, in the streets and neighborhoods. The only issues we have sometimes are with, there's certain areas where, for example, there's undocumented migrants and so on, and they're sensitive about being on camera. We never interfere with what people do. We're not invasive. We don't film people that don't want to be filmed. We don't block traffic. We don't create any kind of disturbance. We follow the laws. So it's very, very rare that we have any negative interactions with people. Like in the streets, almost never. We have had issues with security in different parts of Joburg, because there's just security guards that don't really know like the difference between filming in public and filming in private, and we've actually been assaulted by security guards. It's very rare. It's very, very rare, but it has happened. And again, this is just an area where I need help to navigate, because if there are issues with security, I'm not trying to create any issues with this. As I said, we never film on private property without being invited. But just again, this is where you guys can hopefully help me navigate these situations, because just to let people know, whoever, if I let you know that I'm going to be filming in a particular area, if there's any kind of issues involved, or just to let people know, okay, these guys are, we know about them and we know what they're doing. It's just going to save, it's going to prevent potential situations. But like I said, this is very rare. This is very, very rare that it's happened. I don't want to misrepresent my experience. My experience filming in Joburg is just paradise. So that's where we're at. Yeah, I don't know if anyone has any questions, or if there's anything that I should talk about that I missed out.
Yeah, definitely. I think there won't be a lot of questions. I think the best way is just for us to break it down into bite sizes. I see Angela already left her contact. So Angela's with GPMA, Johannesburg Property Owners and Managers Association. Sorry. So please just reach out to her to have a conversation. Maybe she has a few locations that she would want to note for you. From someone who's been based in Johannesburg her whole life, I think she can guide you in the right direction in terms of key locations. And then what I will do on my side is I will send an email to the relevant urban management companies just to ask them for any dates that they are free. And then I'll CC you in those emails just so that you can get a few dates and times for you to just come in and do the initial shooting. But thanks for volunteering, Angela, to assist.
Thank you.
No problem, no problem. Thanks for joining, Eugene. I definitely love the idea, and definitely looking forward to assisting where we can. Yeah, good luck on, you compiling this document.
So yeah, what I'll do basically, sorry, I won't keep talking, but just to add, so essentially, I won't really know because I'm also depending on other people's availability. Once I get to Joburg next week, then I'll start figuring out like dates when I can film, and then I'll just be contacting you guys through Katlego or whichever way. If somebody sends me their contacts, I'll just reach out to you and say, look, this is what I'm hoping to do, and we can have the conversation from there. Hopefully that's okay with people.
I think that would be perfect. That would be perfect. Thanks.
Okay, amazing. All right, thank you.
Thanks for that, Eugene.
So I'm muting my mic now, yeah?
For sure, thank you. You'll definitely get a few people reaching out, and then also when you're back in the country, we'll have a more in-depth conversation about how to move forward. Yes, so
absolutely.
Just to close the session for today, obviously the next chapter meeting is on the 31st of March, and then the next Urban Practice Forum will be on the 7th of April. Notable dates, I will mention just a few. The rest will be on the calendar on our website for you to see which engagements that you'd want to join for the remainder of the month. A big one is the Inner City Partnership Forum on the 6th of March in Bram Park this Friday from 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. And also there'll also be the G13 Friday cleanup, and then on this Friday as well, 6th of March. And then we just had a colleague from SALGA. They are, as he said, planning the Local Government Property Development Summit, which will be a 2-day summit on the 26th to the 27th of March from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And then there will be a seat here. Sorry about that. Gauteng government. No, not that one. Not that one. Oh yes, tomorrow there's the Q4 Gauteng Climate Change Forum, with the Gauteng Department of Environment from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So if you want more details and more links to register yourself for these engagements, just look at our websites and you will get that necessary calendar for you to plan out your month. And then obviously later on today, there will be a forum of integrated risk mitigation meeting around hotspotting, crime hotspots, and just engaging around the safety in the inner city. So that's at 3:30. And yeah, all other dates will be on the calendar on our website. The next session, as I said, 7th April, 31st of March. And with that, I'll just bring the meeting to a close and appreciate everyone who attended the session, our presenters, and yeah, please reach out to them and connect in the best way possible. Thank you all for attending. Enjoy the rest of your day, month. Going to be a busy month, and please stay safe as you've been aware of the current state of global geopolitics. And yeah, see you at the next session. Goodbye.
Thank you, Gatleo.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Bye.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Bye-bye.